Okay, today we are going to talk about the levels adjustment layer and the magic of fixing tonal quality. So, the first thing on here, the adjustment layer. So, the star of today's show. So, we've already dealt with its cooler older brother, HuSat. So, this is the lame younger brother that's always chasing after his older brother because he can only mess with tonal quality. He can only mess with how dark or light something is. And we can do that already in a HuSat with lightness, but this is... So we can already do some of this stuff with a HuSat, but this is more focused on it. So let's talk about this. Explain the effect of the levels adjustment layer and its effects. So levels adjustment layer alters the tonal range and contrast. So a fancy way of describing your difference between your dark and your light tones within a picture. The layer constricts the possible tonal range to fit the tones in the image. So that is a fancy way of saying that we're going to adjust where our maximum and lowest, or maximum and minimum, tone is on our histogram. So, controlled by moving the tab for pure black, 50% gray, and pure white. So we're basically going to reset what level of darkness we consider to be pure black, what level of brightness we consider to be pure white, and what tonal value we consider to be smack dab in the middle of that. And then it'll recalculate our image from that. So while that pops open, let's go grab from last year. We're going to run it back. So my returning champion students, you will not need to do the Photoshop 8 assignment. Congratulations. If you had me for game design last year, you don't have to do Photoshop 8.
So I do not need to do this?
No. Yeah. So it's the same Alex Jones, beautiful tinfoil prophet. Wait, come on. Knock, knock, open up. Okay, so we're going to be using our levels adjustment layer to help make Alex Jones become the Winston Churchill-like figure he dreams of becoming as a statesman of the world. So our tinfoil prophet layer and our Sir Winston layer. Okay, so a levels adjustment is the second from the left in the top row. So you hover over it, it says levels. So I'm just going to add a levels. And I'm actually going to just, for sake of ease right now, I'm going to turn off the Alex Jones layer so you can see the effect that I'm having. 5 minutes left in fifth period for my fifth period only folks. So what you can see here is that you will get a histogram that represents each pixel that is in this image. And it's showing you how many of them are darker and how many of them are lighter. So our white tab over here representing pure white tones in the image. Our black tab over here representing where pure black is in the image. And then this is smack in the middle. Now, you'll see, if I move this to the right, you'll see how in the background you can see the image getting more and more dark. So as I move this along, I'm basically saying, hey, anything that would otherwise be to the left of this tab, that should actually be pure black now. Okay, so these are going to become pure black. And then it's recalculating, basically, these tones to be between 0 and 50% gray. And then these tones between 50% gray and white. So if I push this white tab in closer, you'll see the 50% moves with it. And the closer I push this, the more tones I'm getting to become pure white. And then it's recalculating these pixels in between to be some new shade of gray. And then additionally, with the gray tab, you can push it closer to the black tab, which means that these tones between here and here become between 0 and 50% gray. And then these tones become between 50% gray and white. So you can completely alter the balance of the tones in your image. So let me zoom out. So that's basically what this looks like as of now. So let me reset that. So jumping back to the notes. we are going to use this in a bit to adjust the balance of the Alex Jones layer so that it matches more closely with the Winston Churchill layer. So we'll come back to that in a second. So the next thing, so that's one way of adjusting your light and dark balance. Another way to do it is using the burn and the dodge tool. Before I forget, hey Connor, can you close those doors? Because it's going to get loud in a second. So burn tool, dodge tool. These are located underneath this little icon right here. It's directly underneath what looks like the little water droplet right above your good friend, your favorite tool, the pen tool. So, come on. There we go. So, dodge tool, burn tool, sponge tool, we're not really going to talk about right now. So, your dodge tool, wait, which one's first on the notes? Burn tool, I'll start with the burn tool. Okay, so the burn tool. I'm going to click on, make sure I'm on the right layer, because you need to have something to burn or to dodge, so it cannot be empty. You can't actually burn and dodge a mask, but I think it has to be white. You can burn the white area or dodge the dark areas of your mask. Irrelevant. You'll never do that. If you do it, more power to you. So with the burn tool, the burn tool does what you would generally consider to be burning something. It's darkening it. Okay, so I'm accentuating his luscious lips, giving him that full Kylie Jenner. And he's got these nice puffy cheeks now. Let's get underneath. Let's get that. Girl, you gotta fill in those brows. So there you go. Let's let me go to my history. So yeah, you can see before and after, before and after. So quite a stark effect on our image. Now, by contrast, obviously, as you'd expect, your dodge tool does the opposite. So if I start doing this on his nose, I can make his nose really stand out so it looks like he has a gigantic nose. We can really highlight that top lip there, giving him a little bit of a beak.
Can you send this?
Yes, I can.
Can I go? I'm going to my eye.
Okay, so back to this. So as you can see, opposite effect, before, after, before, after. So your dodge tool is going to make things brighter. Now, this next thing is largely irrelevant to your work in Photoshop, but I always will like to teach it because Photoshop it started out as photo editing tools, okay? So it has a basis in photography. So how did this burn and dodge tool relate to what we used to have to do in a darkroom? So yes, I am actually old enough to have had to develop film. I was actually the last class at Foothill High that had darkroom photography. So do you guys still have it in Amador? Yeah. Man, you guys are ballers. Mainly they got rid of it because it's expensive to maintain the chemicals and keep them, blah, blah, blah. Lots of stuff, lots of red tape. So anyway, so back in the day, you would have, let me go and make a new document real quick. So I'll flip back in a second to let you guys copy that in. So you would have an enlarger. An enlarger would basically be a machine that looks like this, and then it has a little arm, and then a little platform here, and there'd be a little there'd be a little slot right here. So, okay, how many people in here have actually physically seen a film negative? Like, you've seen it in person. Has anyone here seen a film negative in person? One person. I got 2, 3, 3.5 maybe, 4. So we're all familiar with what a film negative looks like, I hope, if you haven't seen one in person. But I'm interested to know that none of you have really seen one in person. So like this, a film negative. Now, the reason why such a thing exists, getting back to the enlarger in a second. So, you open up your camera lens. Light comes in. This film is behind the lens. The light burns the silver nitrate on this film. And what's happening, since we've learned about light recently, is that the light is otherwise being blocked or not being blocked by whatever. So where we are, your colors all get burned as the opposite, basically. I'm just trying to shortcut here because this is largely irrelevant. But so, light hits you, the light reflects off of you into the lens, burns the film. Okay, great. So now we have the enlarger. In fact, let me flip back over to the notes real quick. Then we have the enlarger. So you put your film negative in there. As you saw, the picture on the negative is the inverse of what we see with our eye. So we have dark, if you're white, you get all dark. If you're black, then your skin looks hella white. So then what happens is we put the film negative into the enlarger, and it shines light through the negative. So we put white paper on our enlarger down here. So as we saw, my white skin, my albino white skin, the light would go through that negative. The negative now has me as having quote-unquote black skin, okay, right? Because it's very dark on the negative. So it's blocking the amount of light that can get through that negative down onto the sheet, which means that the picture comes out as me being white, because the darkness on the negative is what's blocking the light from getting down to the white photo paper. So once that happens, you get your picture. Now sometimes your picture comes out not exposed enough. It's too dark in some areas, or it's too light in some areas. And you need to either overexpose it to make it darker, or underexpose it so that it comes out lighter. You basically put less light through the enlarger to make it lighter, and more light through the enlarger to make it darker. So if you are with the enlarger, if you wanted one area of your photo to end up darker than the others, you might expose your photo to get that area that you want to be lighter to be exposed to the right amount. Then you cover that up, you dodge it from the rest of the image, the light dodges that area and hits the rest, and the rest of it comes out the right exposure. But what you've done is now stop the light from hitting that area, therefore dodging the area. By contrast, you want what I just described, so you get that one corner to be the correct lightness and the other areas need to be darkened more. So you cover up the area that doesn't need to be exposed anymore. More light comes down, burning the uncovered areas, making them darker. So that's how that tool came to be. So photos are exposed by light through a negative. And then the relative light or dark on the photo paper depends on how much light came through. So more light burns the light reactive chemicals on the paper, makes it darker. Less light means less of the paper gets chemically reacted by light, and there it ends up being brighter. This will never come up in my class as a test question. It might make you sound smart if you're trying to impress some girl or guy in the future, and you can pretend that you know a lot about photography. So maybe file that away for later. Now, here's the real nuts and bolts though. So for us, we're just going to use the burn and dodge tool in Photoshop, and you can remain blissfully unaware of whatever I just told you. If that was all just Greek gibberish to you, that's okay. Because all I care about is that you know how the burn and dodge tool works in Photoshop. Okay, if you can't explain the enlarger to me, I'm not going to lose any sleep. So, how we use non-destructive burn and dodge in Photoshop. So, as you saw, I was just freehand just burning Winston Churchill and dodging Winston Churchill right on his layer. So, that is, of course, a destructive edit. If I saved my file and closed it, it would be there permanently. As it is, I just undid what I did so it wasn't permanent. Now, how do we non-destructively burn and dodge something? So I have the steps listed here. First thing you're going to do, make a nice fresh layer for your burn and dodge. Okay, so this is similar in concept to what we did with the clone stamping stuff, where I told you how to make a non-destructive burn and dodge layer. So instead of making a new layer, naming it clone, name it burn and dodge, because it's a mere burn and dodge layer. Then, so let me close this, don't save. So, right in here, I'm going to make a new layer and name it burn dodge. Alright, step number 2, go to edit menu, down to fill, and from that menu you'll see 50% gray option in the drop down menu. So edit, fill, 50% gray is an option, hit OK. Alright, Winston's gone. What do we do next? So, we want to change this layer's blending mode. So we talked about color, the color blending mode, on the last set of notes. So this is similar to that, just a change in how the layer affects the ones beneath it. In our case, we want overlay. And what overlay does, just to briefly go over it, is darker and lighter tones apply to the layers beneath, but 50% gray is neutral on overlay. It does absolutely nothing to the picture. So when I flip this layer over here down to overlay, you'll see, okay, it's like nothing ever happened. This layer is invisible. Now on this layer, I can go ahead and burn and dodge to my heart's content. So, oh, I left my dodges on. Hold on. So I don't want to be dirty. Okay, so then I can go ahead if I want, dodge his nose up. I can switch over to my burn tool, burn those brows, give him that nice thick lips. There we go. So our burn and dodge, entirely non-destructive, can be turned on and off at our discretion. The power of the sun in the palm of our hands. Okay, so now we have that weapon. One last thing to note about this kind of stuff is the idea of a clipping mask. I think I might have mentioned, have we talked about this? Have I mentioned it? Anyone heard? Okay, I didn't think so. I thought I might have accidentally jumped the gun earlier this year and mentioned it and made you do it in an assignment when I forgot. It's on these notes. Okay, so a clipping mask. What is the function of a clipping mask and how are they created? So a clipping mask does not for no reason have the word mask in it. It is essentially a way of using one layer to become a mask for another layer. So a clipping mask is a layer 1 for this example, bound to a layer beneath it, which will be called layer 2, such that layer 1 is only showing its area on the filled and visible areas of layer 2. Layer 2 being the lower layer that it is clipped to. So what that looks like, if I, let me just make 2 layers on top of this. So if I have red, whoops. So say I have this red squiggle here. And I take Sir Winston. I put it above the red squiggle. I can right click on it. You'll see there's an option here, create clipping mask. And when I select that, in the layer panel, you can see the entire Sir Winston layer. There's no mask there. There's no mask here. This arrow denotes that, hey, whatever is going on this layer, we want to be a part of it. So Sir Winston wants to join the red party on layer 2. Don't read any political connotation into that. So let's release the clipping mask. So back to normal. Nothing got deleted, non-destructive, all that good stuff. Okay? So, flip back to the notes. A clipping mask is like a mask as the layer 2, so the lower layer from the example, acts as the mask for the display of layer 1. You create a clipping mask by either right-clicking on the layer you want to clip down and create a clipping mask. I will note you can stack multiple layers on top of each other as clipping masks, and the same thing is true in the clipping order. The layers that are clipped, if you have multiple clipped layers, that layers order stack down. So if you have something on top, it'll appear on top of the next, on top of the next, on top of the next. Another handy way to create a clipping mask, if you alt left click on the gap between two layers. So if I just come in here and hold down the option key here, see how it gives me my little clipping mask arrow? Yoink. All right. So let me refresh. Actually, let me just refresh this back to the open. All right. So now here is doing the assignment. It will go rather quick. We're going to mask out Alex Jones so it's just his face. We're going to put just his face and overlap it onto Winston Churchill's face so that Alex Jones's face is on Winston Churchill's body. Okay? So I'm going to start by first making my mask for Alex Jones. So I'm just going to make a mask by making an empty mask, grabbing a brush, black, soft, and then I'm just gonna fix it up in a second. So make sure folks that you don't leave any floating chunks of white space from the Alex Jones picture outside of the face. All right, so yeah, yeah. So I'm making a smaller brush now. Switch to white. Okay, so I'm solidifying. Oh, hold on. Switch to black here. If I sent this to him, he would unironically think it's beautiful. Okay. Alright, so good mask so far, but as you can see, it's a little, it's not perfect. There is some things to fix. So the next thing we want to do, add an adjustment layer for levels. And the first thing to note is that if I start messing with this, I'm going to mess with the whole image. What I want to mess with is Alex Jones's shading. So what I'm going to do is right click, create a clipping mask, and clip my levels to just the tinfoil prophet. So then I can, so what I'm going to do is add a little bit more white into the picture, push my middle grays closer to my white. So what I'm doing now is there's a lot less pure white tones in here. I'm also going to add a little bit of black. Okay. Let's draw this back a little bit there. So we got before and after. And then to finish this off, we want to go ahead and add another layer here. And this will be burn dodge. And let's go ahead and edit fill. 50% gray. Okay. So clip it on there. And that's you basically showing you where my mask ends for Alex Jones. So I'm going to just take a second, flip back to my Alex Jones mask. And make sure that switch to white. So, because I can see parts where his eye and eyebrows are poking through. I want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Okay. And then my burn dodge layer just gets set to overlay. Bam. grab my, let's start with the burn tool, and let's come up here, make sure we burn up here on his, where the hat should be casting a shadow on him. Also, I can deepen this furrow here, give him a little bit of extra shading under the brow. A little bit extra shading on under the lip. Whoops. Make his creases a little darker. And then also, whoops, flip the script, grab the dodge tool, and let's see. Oh! Not on the brush tool. So I highlighted his nose ridge a little bit to make it more prominent. I'm also going to highlight the top, fix up the top of his brow so that it catches some light. And let's see. Right here on his flaps. Let's see, anything else? I think I want to. I'm gonna go back to my mask here. Switch to black. Alright, never mind. I gotta leave that in there. Okay, but we need that little, we need where the chin, where the cleft of his chin starts. So that is what you should end up with. A beautiful, beautiful picture of Alex Jones. Oh, one last thing. On the levels output, turn down, so let me zoom in here. I'm turning down my output levels. This just means that it's taking these values, and then in the end, my things that are set to pure white start here. So it's basically compressing the whole levels down a little bit. So I'm tamping this down before, after. So a much more striking look at Alex Jones. Because if you look at the underlying picture, there's no contrast in his face really. So with this, now he has contrast. And then if you want to make it look more old-timey, you can go to filter, blur. What's the best one? I'm gonna go with maybe Gaussian blur. And so let's see, 1 pixel might be so that we don't want it too blurry, just enough to make it look old-timey. So yeah, honestly 1 pixel seems pretty good, maybe 0.9. And there you have it. Alex Jones, the greatest prime minister in the history of Great Britain. All right, thanks for watching.